frankly, to be put in that position must be awful, on top of all of the social media harassment that these athletes have had.
Imane knows herself, but there are questions in her head, and she asks, why me?
ناس حتى يقتل تفكير وذهن.
Everybody is right now paying attention to this controversy in women's boxing around Imane Khelif from Algeria, video circulating of her knocking out an Italian fighter in 47 seconds, and statements from a boxing organization that indicated she was banned from competition for sex testing that indicated an abnormality that might suggest that she's not a woman. To be very clear, this is not a situation of a trans athlete. This organization is no longer part of the Olympics. In fact, it was kicked out of the Olympics over the fact that this IBA boxing organization is essentially run by the Russian government. The National Olympic Organization of Algeria has denied this. They say that she's a woman on her passport, she's a biological woman, and that these are all baseless attacks. The IOC is adamant that she's eligible to compete and that she is a woman. And here's what they say about it.
This is a minefield. And unfortunately, as with all minefields, we want a simple explanation. Everyone wants a black and white explanation of how we can determine this. That explanation does not exist, neither in the scientific community nor anywhere else. As I've said before, if we can find a consensus, and we will work towards a consensus, we will certainly work to apply that.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So a senior advisor to the UN has said that sex testing at the Olympics must be mandatory. So a report was released recently by Reem Alsalem, an advisor to the UN, who said that the IOC has a terrible history of not protecting female athletes. Who knows how many male athletes we have had over the decades, ever since the late 90s, where the IOC got rid of sex testing. So even before they changed their policies and went woke, they were already allowing males to slip through the net and enter into women's competitions. There have been many concerns about this for the longest time. And then they go and make it worse by changing their policies to say that they will not assume that a male athlete has an advantage over women simply because of transgender identity or whatever identity there is. So is it any wonder that they were in full support of boxers like Imane Khelif and Ting, saying it was perfectly fine for them to compete in women's boxing simply because they had documentation, they had passports, and that was enough for the IOC. So the IBA confirmed that these two boxers had XY chromosomes according to the genetic tests that they conducted, that the boxers signed. They confirmed that they had XY chromosomes, that they are male. Despite this, the IOC still decided that it was appropriate for them to compete in women's boxing because they had passports or they had birth certificates. And we were even told that they were born women. But the genetic testing showed a different story entirely. So Reem Alsalem called out various governing bodies, in particular the IOC. It's been estimated that 600 female athletes have lost out on 890 medals in 29 sports around the world due to competing against biological males. Female athletes were required to take sex tests by the IOC between 1968 and 1999. The Olympics admitted Khelif and Lin on the basis that their passports said they were female. There were circumstances in which sex screenings are necessary, legitimate and proportional to ensure fairness and safety in sports. At the Olympics, female boxers had to compete against two boxers whose sex as females was seriously contested, but the IOC refused to carry out screening. Current technology enables a reliable sex screening procedure through a simple cheek swab for non-invasiveness, confidentiality, and dignity. Remember how some of these trans activists were trying to fearmonger and say, well, now we're going to have to do tests on everybody, on every woman, to make sure that they're female. Are you going to be willing to go through those horrific tests? Are you going to be willing to go through those degrading tests? This is the sort of thing they come up with. It's a simple cheek swab. That's it. And I'm sure many female athletes are willing to do that in order to maintain the integrity of their sports. Physiological advantages are not undone by testosterone suppression. Undermining the eligibility criteria for single-sex sports results in unfair, unlawful, and extreme forms of discrimination against female athletes on the basis of sex. Perfectly put. That sums this whole thing up. This is discrimination against women. This is discrimination against female athletes. No woman should be forced to compete against a male athlete. I shouldn't have to say this. Especially in boxing, what we saw at the Paris Olympics was disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. And there's a reason why people were boycotting it. They want nothing to do with this last Olympics that went. Utah, when I sat down with Utah, she was saying that it was so unfortunate that people were boycotting the Olympics because it wasn't fair to the other athletes who were just there to compete, who worked hard to make it to the Olympics in the first place. But unfortunately, it was the IOC who made it about everything but sports, who made it about everything but fair competition. They were willing to throw women under the bus, have them being punched in the face by male athletes. I mean, their policy says what they're all about. And yes, the IBA aren't perfect. Apparently they have a bad reputation, but tests don't lie. Genetic tests do not lie. And if there's a mistake with their test, do another one. Both boxers have had plenty of time to do it. The IOC should have done their own test. If they really cared about maintaining the integrity of women's sports, if they really cared about the safety of women, they would have done their own test. If you've got a problem with the IBA's test, you could have done your own. But they absolutely refused. Alsalem's report says that anybody who does not wish to compete in line with their biological sex should compete in an open category. That's a very simple solution. Why is the open category not good enough for some people? They claim they want to compete. It's so important for them to compete in sports. A new category is created just for them, and they don't want it. They just want to compete in the women's category. Punch women in the face. Why? Usually, when it comes to differences in sexual development, usually they know what they are by the time they go through puberty. That's when they become aware that even if a doctor made a mistake saying that they're female, when they go through puberty, they know in no uncertain terms that they're male. So Sharron Davies, an Olympic swimmer from, the 80s and the 90s, she supports this report and, she backs it all the way. She is somebody who has experienced firsthand what it's like to compete against somebody who's a cheat. Back in the day when she was competing, the East German athletes were known for doping. She missed out on a gold medal because it went to an East German athlete who later admitted that, yes, I was doping. Later admitted it and even apologized for it. But obviously by then it's too late. Sharron missed out on an Olympic gold medal through no fault of her own, simply because she had to compete against cheaters. So she feels very strongly about this. She doesn't see it as any different when it's a male athlete in a women's competition. She regards that as cheating, and understandably so, as anybody with common sense would. So she said sports must be for all, of course, but the equal opportunities and mental health of half the world's population cannot and must not be thrown under the gender ideology bus, where male feelings are more important than biological reality. It's outrageous that national governing bodies, and particularly the IOC, with their terrible history of not protecting women in sport, are still too scared to stand up for female athletes. It's shameful and it's dangerous. No females should have to die to prove the bloody obvious. And that's what I'm afraid it's going to come to. And even then I wonder if they're going to do anything, to be honest, but I would hate it to come to that before they are knocked back to reality. Especially in sports like boxing. I mean, what are they thinking? So remember, Khelif's coach even confirmed that there were problems with the chromosomes. The coach essentially confirmed that this boxer has XY chromosomes, but basically said it doesn't matter. Khelif is a woman. That's the mentality of people who are for this. They don't care about the chromosomes, and unfortunately, I think the IOC has the same mentality. The people behind the IOC, they have the same mentality. If you want a repeat of the Paris Olympics where people don't want anything to do with it, carry on. I hope they take this report seriously. They need to protect female athletes. It's about time. It's been over 30 years of them allowing males to slip through the net and compete in women's competitions. It's unacceptable. It's unforgivable. It really is. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.